Right, hello everyone. This is going to be the first video in the astrology vlog series where I'm going to teach astrology by sharing my personal experiences of the transits. And I think that's just great because I have so much access to information about what's going on in my life that I can instantly correlate to the transits that are ongoing. And hopefully as you listen along, you'll be able to place yourself in those stories because we're all dealing with the same global transits. It's just that they are completely unique to each of us, how they express, how they manifest. But of course, thematically, they'll be similar because it's the same planets and the same signs we're talking about. So today we'll begin with Jupiter's transit through Cancer. And it's happening in my third house. And I'll make the connections just as I'm speaking. Okay. Jupiter transiting the third in Cancer. Now, we know that Cancer is like a very intimate, homemaking type of sign. It's not really outward. It's not very social, though it can be, of course. It's more about things that are happening at the private level. Private life, family life, life with your spouse, life with your siblings, life with your close friends, and the life of sensitive information, the life of what's happening inside the house. And Jupiter has that expansive nature of making things big, making things wonderful, and especially helping us develop our philosophy about certain subjects. And of course, our philosophy develops our ontology, our logic, the way that we see the world, the way that we reason. And so it has much to do with our mental development, our growth, and how we see things. And Jupiter in Cancer has been a very fruitful period for me in terms of making a cozy life for myself. First of all, I'm a person that has moved around a lot in life, and I didn't really have a stable upbringing. So the question of like making a home has been always a big question for me. And I never really got to land anywhere until I met my partner a few years ago. Nevertheless, our relationship was very rocky in the first couple years. So there wasn't much homemaking at that time. It was more like struggling to work through very important issues that come up in every relationship. But during this transit, things have changed. And I began to understand the importance of intimacy and closeness and the sanctity of it. Now, everyone in my family has gone through separation or divorce many times. So for me, that was the only example or model of life that I had ever seen, which is not true for my boyfriend, who came from two parents that stayed together up until the very end. And while he was ready to make a home straight away, I wasn't. I had to work through, scattered attention, not being sure that this is what I want, looking elsewhere for a long while, not being able to place myself in this house. And by the way, we live in a tiny house. And so throughout the transit, we've been like this close to each other all throughout. And now it's very different because I feel very close to my partner. And more I feel like there's nowhere else that I want to be. And I want to just be in a safe environment with him. And naturally, that has made our relationship much, much better, much smoother, much easier, much more happy. There isn't tension all the time. And when there is, we can easily discuss it and get through it. So there aren't those underlying big, terrible issues. And it took us a while to get here, but Jupiter in Cancer is what really brought us through. And as a result, I begin to feel settled. So I start to turn my attention towards making the house a home. And I do that by, for the first time in my life, paying attention to what's around. Meaning, I used to sleep on a mattress on the floor with just the basic pillow and the basic blanket, everything made out of polyester. I didn't care about the sheets. It was just the cheapest stuff I could find just to sleep. Who cares about sleep? And then I found out that this is actually something that's extraordinarily important for me. That's the place that I rest. I'm in my bed all the time. Shouldn't I have the best stuff that I can have, given the resources that I possess at the moment? Obviously, I'm not a super rich guy, at least. Yeah, I have limited money to work with. And still, I found that during this period, whatever tiny income was coming in, I chose to spend it on house stuff. For example, I bought an actual bed frame. So I'm not sleeping on the floor anymore, I'm sleeping elevated. And that's kind of important because I don't feel like a mongrel, kind of. I feel like there's a level of decency when I'm raised up. And it's like, it's like a normal bed. And it just feels better. It just feels like taking better care of myself. And then I got a new blanket, a very warm one. And that was, by the way, a gift for my mom. My mom has always given me lots of gifts in my life. She's been a tremendous blessing. But this is something that I really wanted, for Christmas. That was my Christmas present. And, before that, I was like, who cares about blankets? I'll just cover myself with whatever is there. And not only that, but I got new sheets for the bed, and a new cover for the blanket, and a new cover for the pillow. And all of them are made out of organic cotton. Okay, I didn't want any more of the polyester stuff because I felt like, okay, that's going on my skin. That's kind of poisonous and it's plastic, essentially. And I can tell you that having the organic cotton stuff makes a big difference, and it's honestly not all that expensive. And I'm a person who really likes to drink smoothies. That's my thing. Like the whole day, I will drink smoothies. And then in the evening, I'll have my dinner, which is going to be a bigger meal. And that works very well for me. But we didn't have a blender. My boyfriend never cared about a blender. I never had enough money for a blender. I was just trying to survive. And so I would instead eat whatever fruit was available. But the issue I had was that frequently the fruit I was buying at Aldi, which is our local grocer, I live in Germany, the grapes were of inconsistent quality. And I found that to be very irritating because sometimes they would have the ones I really love that are sweet and have the right texture. And other times they would have stuff that is just like not enjoyable. And so essentially the main part of my meal for the day, which was the fruit, was just a disaster. But when I have the smoothies, because we're talking about frozen fruit, they always have the same taste. It's very consistent. And I just like the fact that it's something that I drink. I don't know, and you can see that in Cancer, by the way, also. Liquid. It's liquid. And so I finally got a blender. A nice blender from Philips. Thank you, Philip. And every single day I'm having smoothies, and I have to say, I am so pleased. I just feel like it's exactly what I need for my home life to feel good. Yeah, and we organized some things around the house. Like we got a nice little rug. We have these chairs, we have heaters. For me, it's very important to be warm. And so making the house, which is a very small house, has been really a nice journey. And the thing that I often joke about with my boyfriend is, because we don't have a lot, is that every single thing that I buy or that we buy, we make good use of. There's nothing extra. And I like that. I'm kind of a minimalist person to begin with. I don't like to have anything that I don't use. For me, that's wasteful. And therefore, I also threw away my old clothes, which I wasn't using anymore. And instead, I bought these, which are also, you guessed it, organic cotton. So even the stuff that is on my body, the stuff that is most intimate, that is closest to me, I replaced. And it just feels good to wear this stuff that feels like exactly what I need and exactly what I like. So besides that, we frequently go out to have dinner. And that changes from time to time. Sometimes we stay at home, but because we would go out frequently, because neither of us really likes to cook, we would often go to this Indian place called Maharaja. And because we're there so often, we started to get pretty close to those people. Like they start to feel like family. Now, this is where the third house starts to become pretty important, because the third house is about your neighborhood. It's about the people that are in your locale. And because we're there so often, they start to, always joke around with us, or they're very happy to see us, or, we have our inside jokes with them. And every time we go there, we really feel like, anything we ask for, they're going to take very good care of. For example, whenever I order the fish, they naturally put just one slice of lemon. But I like to have 2 slices of lemon because I use plenty of lemon on my fish. And they started to just bring out the fish with 2 lemons anytime that I would order it. Or we would call in for a reservation, and as soon as they hear my voice, they know, yeah, they want to come in at 6 p.m. and they want to have the round table, and it's going to be 2 of them. So they start to recognize me and immediately know what I need, and just preemptively take care of those needs and make me and Alex, my boyfriend, feel very, very welcome. And also, if I have for example, they have the sauce that I really like that comes with a meal called the dam aloo. But sometimes I don't want to order the whole meal, I just want the sauce to put on the rice. And so I will order that sauce by itself, and they will bring it to me with joy, and they won't charge us anything extra. And when we order, because sometimes Alex likes to just order their chicken appetizer. When we're at the restaurant, the chicken appetizer comes with 6 pieces of chicken. But when we order it now, they will put 12 pieces of chicken, and they will charge him €1 less than what the normal price is. And so you see, it's like we have such a close relationship with those people that are cooking the food for us, that they just go above and beyond constantly anytime that it's about us. And when you have that kind of connection to the people that are around, it really feels it's very warm, it's very loving, it just feels like home. It feels like we made a home in this city, and that is part of our home, is Maharaja. Alex, by the way, during this period, is his mom lives nearby, and she lives like a 10-minute drive in a village. And that is actually where Alex has grown up, in that village. And so he has started going to his mom's house very often, which he never did before. He was actually kind of distant from his mom, not in the sense of they don't get along, but just in the sense of his life has taken him elsewhere, and so he wasn't placing much importance on that. But during this period, Jupiter is transiting his first house in Cancer. And Jupiter is also now retrograde. That's important because Jupiter is moving backwards in Cancer. And what's happened is that Alex has actually started spending a lot of time in his childhood bedroom. And he has designed his childhood bedroom to be a music room. Alex also has a Gemini stellium. Gemini being the musician in this case. So he has a piano, he has a guitar, he has a drum kit. I don't know what else he has. He has an amp. And he goes there every day. He spends time with his mom, just connecting, being there for her, chatting with her. And then he's in his childhood room, which he made to his liking, as a space where he can just relax and enjoy playing music by himself. He has a 12th house stellium as well, by the way. So he doesn't even like to play music around me. He does occasionally, but for him it's very important that he just can be in a totally silent environment and play his music. So there you can see Jupiter in Cancer. And, before I go on, I just want to point out, notice how all of my stories are pretty mundane. There's nothing extraordinary happening like, oh, we got, $10,000 or whatever, and we moved to for some people, it's going to be that way. It's going to depend on where you have Jupiter transiting. But you have to understand, life is mostly very simple. And it's in these little details, these little day-to-day events. That is what's important to really take away from this. That when you're looking for these transits, especially an expansionist transit like Jupiter's, you have to consider the small things and just think about the traits of Cancer rather than thinking about, well, when am I going to get everything that I want? Well, over time, you're probably going to get a lot of the things you want as you work for it. But these transits are indicating just our life, because most of life is just like everyday stuff happening. That's where we have to look for the clues. That is where all the magic happens. It's in everyday life. So, continuing with Jupiter in Cancer. The other thing you should keep in mind is that Jupiter has been in Cancer since June of 2025. That's been like 5-6 months, I guess. Jupiter will stay in Cancer until July of 2026, which means I and you have only experienced a fraction, like about a half of this transit. And Jupiter is now retrograde. As Jupiter continues his transit, and especially as he goes on later in his transit, you're going to get more and more and more of that Jupiter in Cancer. Because, of course, it doesn't give the full effect until it's completed the transit throughout. So keep that in mind as well, that there's some things happening now, and there's also things coming that we don't know about yet, but we're going to find out over time. So, what else? I had a family reunion over the summer, and that was actually when Jupiter had just entered Cancer. It happened on 2 levels. One of them, I went to Bulgaria, my home country, and I was there with my mom and my grandma in the same house, which hasn't happened, I guess, since I was a little child. So that was like a big event. Now, I don't get along with my grandma, so that didn't go too well. But nevertheless, we had that reunion. And shortly thereafter, we had another family reunion, and it happened in the mountains in Bulgaria, and it was with a different part of my family. And again, there was this sense of reconnecting with everyone, and especially people in the family who haven't really been together before. And so that was kind of an indication of, again, the family unit becoming more of a central focal point. Now, there's another part that is not related to family at all. And this is again about the 3rd house, because obviously Jupiter is transiting my 3rd house. The 3rd house is about communication. For instance, you can see that I'm making a video, right? And I didn't before talk so much in my whole life because I was a pretty more introverted person or just didn't have these projects going on until now. So I've been making tons of videos. I've been writing a lot on Threads, and I look to be writing even more, much more, not only on Threads, but also building a website. Never mind, who knows if I'll do it. And of course, I start to make these YouTube videos. But more importantly, I have done more readings during this period than ever before in my life. And what's important to understand about the readings is when I speak with clients, obviously we're talking about very personal things. And they're sharing with me like so much of their history in order for us to build the context of what's happening in their life currently, and therefore what's to come shortly in the future. And so every single conversation, I get unprecedented insight into the person's private life. And I love it. You know, for me, it's always very interesting to meet people and to get to know them and to talk to them and to find out about everything that's happening in their life and just to like deeply, intimately share. And also take care of those people in a way. I love to take care of them through that conversation between us to help them understand, okay, this is what's happening. Do you see? Doesn't it make so much sense? And there's such a joyfulness in all of those conversations, the feeling of being close to those people, even though I've never met them before, and kind of building those relationships through conversations. And simultaneously, I've started a learning community. And it's still a small community. I'm pretty sure it's going to grow in the months to come. But every meeting, it's like getting closer and closer and closer and closer to these few people that have joined the community. And all of our conversations go very deep because I'm asking a lot of questions in order to really understand the full context of what a person is experiencing. And that way we build the storyline of what's happening in their transits. And so inevitably we start to learn about each other. Oh yeah, this person has this person in their family and they like to do these kinds of things and they have this history. And so you start to build an idea about people and they start to feel like your family. And I observe how over this period, what happens is that people initially come in a little bit cautious and maybe shy. But as they start to feel a part of that family, they have their place in it. And as they share, they start to become more and more open and contributing more and having more ideas and more insights and more openly saying what they think or what they notice in the charts. And so there's this sense of, you know, in this learning community, there's no lectures happening. There's just intimate conversation. That's it. And through that process of intimate conversation, we learn about astrology. And so there's Jupiter transiting the third in Cancer. So I think that's maybe good enough for now. I think you can see how lovely and how simple those transits are, and how you really have to look for them in the seemingly meaningless things that are happening in life. You have to be more penetrating with your gaze and more contemplative, more reflective. And think about your life as if you're standing above yourself, looking at yourself experiencing. And in that way, you can have a very much better idea about how astrology is really working. It's not about all of your issues being solved. In the case of a Jupiter transit, for example, which we treat as a very benefic transit because it's this huge fortune. Fortune comes in small ways. That is really what I want to emphasize so strongly in this vlog series and anything that I do. That when you engage with astrology, you're engaging with the total story of your life and not just with the big milestones. So I hope this has been enlightening, educational, entertaining, and helpful. I look forward to your feedback, and I would be very happy to read any comments from you that show your own process of reflection on what Jupiter in Cancer has brought to you. Because by the simple act of writing things out, you will connect with the transits in a way you didn't before. Okay, everyone, See you in the next vlog.